To begin, you're going to need to source 50 stalks. Now, traditionally in China, we used Yarrow stalks. I'll show you what the Yarrow stalks look like. Actually, this pile that I have is a mix and match of many, and I'll explain in a second. But these are going to be your Yarrow stalks. And the reason Yarrow stalks were used traditionally is because, one, they were abundant. It was very easy to find. It's like grass, you know, and they're very uniform looking. So you can cut off 50 pieces and be pretty assured that all 50 pieces are going to be pretty uniform, kind of like chopsticks. So you could actually use 50 chopsticks, except you could probably, you know, if you have small hands, it'll be difficult. So don't use the chopsticks. But I'm just, you know what I'm saying. They're very uniform looking. So that's the reason they used Yarrow stalks. Traditionally, it's because you source what is local to you. Now, here in the United States and in the Western countries, it's a little bit more difficult to source Yarrow stalks. I notice a lot of people who are trying to be purists will still go through the effort of sourcing the Yarrow stalks. I don't think that's very important. In fact, I think it's not important at all. What's more important is that you source something local. If you source something local to you and you're the one who goes through the trouble of picking off, cutting, and creating each piece on your own by hand, then in fact, you're really connecting to nature. You're really mixing the chi energy of the natural world around you and yourself. So I think it's more important for you to go to your local surroundings, like a local forest, a local wooded area. And what I do is I find very small branches. See, this is a plum branch. And I have some which are peach branches, and they're just at the tips of the branches. So they're basically just stems, and they're very easy to pretty much pluck off yourself. The drawback to doing it this way and sourcing it locally is that because I don't have Yarrow stalks local to San Francisco Bay Area, but I do have some fruit trees. These sticks are going to have a little bit of nubs, and I do remove the nubs. I smooth it out myself, but I don't do a great job, and I kind of like this sort of natural rustic look to it. So what ends up happening is that when you're doing the Yarrow stalk casting, it does get a little bit difficult and unwieldy, but I actually don't mind that. So it's really up to you whether the priority is to have uniform sticks, in which case you're going to want to go with the purest Yarrow stalks, because Yarrow stalks, you're a little bit more guaranteed about having uniformity. If you go outside into, for me, it was my backyard. If you go out into the wooded area in your neighborhood to collect these stalks yourself, one by one, all the way up to 50, while there's a great magic there where you're connecting very closely to Mother Nature. And in fact, like I said, that's the one that I prefer you do. The issue is, like I said, it's going to be quite impossible to get 50 pieces that are exactly alike, and so you do end up with kind of a mix and match. Again, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think it's actually better. Mine is a mix. I think about half of it is Yarrow stalks. So what ends up happening is if you work with it very quickly, you do break them. And so, I mean, now I'm trying to be very careful, but if you're counting very quickly, and this is something you do quite frequently, it's really easy to snap these and break them. And so I break a lot of them, and that's why it's very hard to keep all 50 of my Yarrow stalks. And then the only time I can get replacements is when I go back to China or Taiwan. I don't usually, buy by mail. So, if I'm not in my native country, it's very difficult to source the Yarrow stalks. I just end up having like half of them left because I break all of them. So I just go into my backyard and I pick from dead branches, and I just pick the ones that are as close as I can get to the size, width, and length of the original Yarrow stalk. So this is a Yarrow stalk. This is a combination of peach, plum, persimmon, and a couple of red date trees. It doesn't matter, but basically you see what I'm saying. I just grab a bunch of different sticks. Okay, and I think it's very important that you do that you go into your local neighborhood, into the natural world around you, and you source locally. Sourcing locally by hand, doing it yourself, is really the best way, because then you're going to have a set of stalks that is incredibly magical and incredibly well attuned to your personal chi energy and the Mother Earth around you. This part is optional. A practitioner, somebody who does work with metaphysical energies, is very likely to want to clear or empower their set of stocks before they start divining with them. If you are a tarot reader, then you might know. Some of you, I think a lot of you, are probably coming to this course with a tarot reading background, and if that's the case, then you're probably nodding your head. If you're not coming from a tarot card reading background, just ignore everything I said. Basically, people who are practitioners of craft are generally going to feel more inclined to, as we say, consecrate the stocks before using them. How that works is going to be different per person. I don't want to say to you exactly step by step what to do, because I don't know what spiritual path you are on. If you are connected to a specific patron deity, or you're very connected to Mother Earth, however you want to really do it, but the idea is to invoke divinity. And you just, what I do is, because you have to be practical, you don't want to use fire with this. That's asking for trouble if you're trying to consecrate these with fire. So don't do that. And then water also gets kind of a hassle. So I don't use fire or water to consecrate these. I use smoke. So that's going to be the smoke of incense. What I'll do is I'll burn incense here, and then as this incense burns, I'll recite mantras, prayers, or some kind of statement of intention for consecration, and pass every single one of these sticks across the incense, the smoke of the incense, one by one, while I'm reciting. So for example, for me, it might be Namo Amitofo Kwansin Pusa. I'll be like Namo Amitofo Kwansin Pusa. I'll take another one and pass it over the smoke. Namo Amitofo Kwansin Pusa. I'll take another one and pass it over the smoke. Namo Amitofo Kwansin Pusa. And I do that with the intention of purification, empowerment, and to consecrate these sticks so they're ready for divination. Again, it's absolutely optional. You really do not need to consecrate it. I'm not saying that you have to. It's in fact, admittedly, it's superstition, but it is something that a lot of practitioners are probably, I am going to go out on a limb here and say, will feel more comfortable doing prior to starting divination if you are coming from a mystery tradition, whether it's an Eastern mystery tradition or a Western mystery tradition. If you're in the woo, you're going to want to consecrate. So I'm just explaining that to you, putting that out there so you know. If you're here just to learn divination and to learn the philosophy of the I Ching, forget everything I said. No consecration needed. Now we begin the divination. So I like to leave pen and paper nearby because I'm not going to remember every single result. So it's best to just keep it here. This is going to take 15 to 20 minutes. We're going to be here for a while. So do you have pen and paper on hand to record? Now what you do is you start by pulling up all 50 sticks, and you're going to take down one stick. And one stick is spirit. This is invoking divinity. So we begin by invoking divinity. This is the invocation. An invocation is essentially stating your intentions and calling upon a specific deity, a specific spirit entity to watch over your divination. Now, if we are sort of attuning ourselves to Zhou Tian Xuanyi, the Lady of the Ninth Heaven, then at this point I might recite an invocation to call down the Lady of the Ninth Heaven, and I have the invocations both in short form and in long form in the back of the I Ching book. So you can look at that. I'm not going to do that here. So usually for me, I'm just going to do it. So all of this is done under Zhou Tian Xuanyi, and I am from a polytheistic background. So how I'm going to do it is basically still stick with the way I learned it. Sort of, you know, my father and I learned it from my family, so I'm just sort of stuck in my old ways. I'm stubborn and conservative. So I still do the invocation of Namu Amitofu Guanxin Busa, which is sort of Buddhist in orientation. But you can use whatever invocation that you want. The idea is to call upon deity, and that's how we begin with 1. And you put it down on the table and you put it down vertically, all right? And so have it vertical, and this is going to represent spirit, represent God, divinity, that idea of connecting to divinity, and that's how we're beginning a divination. Then you take the pile in your hands. Now you have 49. If we're doing the math, it's just subtract 1, so this is easy still. Subtract 1, so now you have 49 stalks in your hand. Now what you do is, let's say you have a question. You think of your question, and you hold it, and again, and then what you do is you separate it out into 2 halves, and it can be completely random. That's the whole point. Don't try to count it, don't try to fear, just, you know, sort of lean into your intuition, lean into the divination, and then pull it apart and separate it into 2 parts, okay? And then how I put it down is as above, so below. This divination is connecting heaven and earth, so we do as above, so below. Now we have the 2 piles like that. Then from the bottom pile, the earth pile, you pull up 1 stick and you hold it between your pinky and your ring finger. Now this 1 stick you're pulling up, it's because this is the significator. Again, if you're coming from a tarot background, or actually even an astrology background, if you understand horary astrology, then you know exactly what a significator is. If you're not coming from a tarot or astrology background, if you never heard the term significator, basically this represents you. This represents, it can be you or the question, but the idea is this is the ego, this is the self, this is the personal energy that is going to anchor the divination toward you. So this is, the intention is to put yourself here, and this is you anchoring the divination into the reading, because this reading is about you. Now, if you're reading for somebody else, let's say I'm reading for Bob, then I'm sorry, I'm still a tarot reader at heart. Then this stalk represents Bob, since I'm reading for Bob. So as a practitioner, when I'm doing a divination for Bob, sorry, I just wanted to make sure I was still recording. Sorry, just a moment, or because I just had to, never mind. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure I was still recording. So I just intend as a practitioner for this to be Bob. Okay, so I stick it here, and the only reason I stick here is just is for easier to work with. All right, and I begin with the bottom. Okay, and I take up the bottom, and now what you do is you want to count out bundles of 4. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and I pull out 4 sticks. And the reason I pull out 4 is because they represent the 4 seasons, or more specifically, the 2 equinoxes and the 2 solstices, because the Chinese lunar solar calendar is in effect very similar to the Wiccan wheel of the year, or you see the pagan wheel of the year. Our agricultural calendar revolves around the 2 equinoxes and the 2 solstices. Those 4 points make up the wheel of the year for us, the Huang Dao, or the yellow path, which is the path of the sun. That makes sense if you think about the path of the sun signs is very similar in Western astrology. Eastern astrology uses the same thing. The path of the sun we call Huang Dao, the yellow path. And so the reason we pick out 4 is because it's basically representing the wheel of the year. It's representing the lunar solar calendar, the 4 seasons, the equinoxes, and the solstices. So we keep on counting out 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, when you keep on counting out 4, mathematically, you're going to be left with 4, 3, 2, or 1 stick. So if there's only 4 left, then you keep 4. You leave 4 here. If there's 3, 2, so basically 4 or less. So either 4 sticks, 3 sticks, 2 sticks, or 1 sticks left, you're done. Well, there's left. So I only have 1. So now I put that between my ring finger and my middle finger, and I just sort of, store it there. To the other side. Now I go to the heaven pile. I pull up the heaven pile, the above pile. And now I begin to count again. Again, it's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. See, this is why it's difficult because my sticks are all different, so it's a little slower. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 3 left, okay? So now what ends up happening is after you finish that counting of the bottom and the pile and the top pile, you're going to either have 5 or you're going to have 9. So the first count, and this is all mathematics, if you sit down and do the probability and count the stalks, you'll see that it's all math. So after this count, you will either have 5 sticks or 9 sticks. You won't have any more than that. If you have like 4 or 3, if you have any number other than 5 or 9, you did something wrong. Pull it all back and start over again. And the interesting thing here is we have numerological significance for the numbers. 9 represents heaven and 5 represents the wuxing, the 5 elements. So if you had gotten 9, there's this element of heaven or celestial influence. 5, we're talking about natural or earthly influences. Okay, and we'll get more into that as we go along. But now we have 5. So I set that aside. And my camera is weirdly angled, so I'm going slowly because I have to keep on checking to make sure I'm still in the frame, so just bear with me. Okay, I don't touch divinity, I leave the divinity there. Now I take up the remainder here, and I pull it again into 2 piles. As above, so below, we're connected. Okay, from the bottom pile, I pull up the significator, the card that represents the ego, the self, the querent, me in the situation. And I hold it between my pinky and my ring finger. Pull up the bottom, and I go through it 4 again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 2 left. I put it between my ring finger and my middle finger just to hold on to it. Now I pull up the heaven pile, pull it up, and start again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 1 left. Okay, now in the second count, that whole process that we did, the second time we did, the second round that we did that, you're going to either get a count of 8 sticks or 4 sticks. And again, that's just mathematics, it's probability. So you're going to, after this whole exercise, the second round, you either will get 8 or you will get 4. Okay, I got 4. So I set that aside here. And let me see if you can see it. So now we have 1, 2, so we're still going through the 2 piles. Now we take it again a 3rd time, okay, leave divinity alone, pull it up, 2 piles, as above, so below. From the bottom pile, pull up 1, that's the significator, that's me, that's the observer, this is the card, the card, I'm so sorry, the stalk that represents us. Then I pull up the bottom pile. Again, counts of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 left. I have 4 left in my hand, so I keep all 4. Put it between my ring finger and my middle finger to hold on to. Now on to the above. Okay, same thing again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 3 left. So now I put it there. Now I have 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In the third round, when you do it the third count round, so we did the first round, the second round, the third round. First round, remember, you would either get a 9 or a 5. Second round, you will get either an 8 or a 4. Now the third round, you will get again 8 or a 4. If you recall, for round 2, I had gotten 4. Now for round 3, I have 8. So now we have those 3 remainder piles. That was after the 3 rounds of counting, if you recall. My first pile was 5, then it was 4, then it was 8. Now, whenever a little bundle like this is 9 for heaven or 8 is for fate, we're talking about extenuating circumstances, then if a pile is 9 or 8, then the number it equals is 2, and it's 2 for yin and yang. If it's 5 for the 5 elements, or 4 for the 4 seasons, 5 or 4, we're talking about terrestrial rather than celestial influences. So if we're talking about terrestrial influences, then we're talking about the equivalent to 3. And 3 is the Trinitarian principle. Fulusho is the Trinity of Lux. I will explain some of that in the handouts. It's also in my book, The Tao of Craft. But basically, the idea is that each person has 3 different kinds of luck: heaven luck, earth luck, man luck. And these 3 lucks represent terrestrial influences. So if it's a 5 or a 4, terrestrial influences, because 5 is the 5 elements or the 5 directions, 4 is the 4 seasons. So these are terrestrial influences. You get 3 for the terrestrial luck. Remember, if it was 9, 9 numerologically corresponds with heaven, or 8, 8 numerologically corresponds with fate, which is your karma, which is celestially mandated upon us. If it's 9 or 8, we have celestial influences, and therefore the number is 2. For yin and yang, that's the creation energy. Yin and yang is the binary that created all of life, and that's why you use 2. Okay, so now remember, the first round 1, we had 5, and since this is 5, the number is 3. So I just write down 3 because we're going to do some simple math. And then the second pile, the second round, is 4. 4 for 4 seasons, so that's talking about the Trinity of Lux. And so we're going to, again, put down 3. And the last pile is 8, and 8 is for fate, and that's celestial influences, so we use 2 for yin and yang. So that's 3 plus 3 plus 2, that's 8, okay? And now in the handouts, you're going to see that there are correspondences. So if the total number that you just added up was 6, because it's 2 plus 2 plus 2, then you would get a changing yin line. If it's 7, 2 plus 2 plus 3, then that would be a absolute yang line, or unchanging yang line. If it's 8, as I have here, that's 2 plus 3 plus 3. And that's an unchanging yin, or absolute yin line. Now, if you had 9, which is 3 plus 3 plus 3, that would be a changing yang line. Now, for us, we have an 8. That's an absolute yin. So then I create a yin line. And again, this is going to be in your supplemental material, so you can see it. But let me draw it. Remember, we're going to be drawing the hexagrams. Hexagrams are 6 lines. We're going to be drawing it from the bottom up. So I draw the first line, and again, it is an unchanging yin line. So this, let me see if it's going to, that is the line that I draw because I had an 8, okay? And now we finish the first line, and we start all over again. And then I pick everything up, and now I do pick up the divinity line, and we start again. 1 down. Divinity, invoke the divinity, call upon the divine, take the pile, separate into 2, heaven and earth, as above, so below. From the bottom pile, take 1, that is the significator or the observer, put it here, pick it up. Now count in bundles of 4. 4 for the 2 equinoxes and 2 solstices, the wheel of the year. This is the calendar. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 left. Top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 left. Okay, how many do do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Pick it up. As above, so below. Pull out my significator. Grab the pile. Count in fours. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 left. Keep the 4. Move on to heaven. Pull up. Count fours. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 left. Okay, so that is for 8. So my second pile is 8. Grab it again. Pull apart. As above, so below. From the bottom pile, pull up the significator. Grab the pile. Count through 4 again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3. Set it aside. Pull the top. Heaven. Count 4 again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3. Okay, so that is 3, 4, 5. I have 8. And I have 8. Okay, my first round was 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 is for fate, so that's celestial influence. With celestial influence, that's going to be a 2 for yin and yang. So write down 2. My second round, I had yielded 5. 5 is for the 5 elements. That's terrestrial, earthly influences. So earthly influences is 3 for the trinity of luck. So I put down 3. Third pile, final round 3, was 8 again. 8 is for fate, and therefore we use 2 for yin and yang. So the math that I do is 2 plus 3 plus 2, that's 7. So now for my second one is 7. Now, as I said again, if it's a 7, then it's a absolute yang, or it's an unchanging yang line. So I draw an unchanging yang line. Now we have, let's see, now we have 2 lines. Divinity, put it down, invocation. Separate. As above, so below. Pull 1, significator, hold. Count to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 left. Hold. Heaven. Pull up. 1. This is a little bit unwieldy. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 left. Okay, we have 4. Now that's a problem. See? Okay, now we can see how there's a problem. I have 4. That means I counted wrong, because round 1 I should have either 9 or 5. So I counted incorrectly. Now we can see, we can sort of backtrack here, and hopefully I can prove to you that we can correct ourselves. So hold all of them again. All right, let's try this again. I did something wrong, so I put it apart, down, pull 1 up, hold. All right, now let's be a little more careful, or I'll be a little more careful when we count. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I almost pulled 5 at that time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 2. Now I pull the top. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I have 2, 2. Oh, see, now I have 5. Now we know we did it correctly. So round 1, you need to have either 9 or you need to have 5. Any number other than 9 or 5, you did something wrong, just like I just did something wrong, and then you just have to recount. So now we have 5. Okay, set that aside. Go again. Hold. Grab. Count. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3. Hold. Heaven. Pull. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 left. Hold. Okay, that's 8. So below, at the bottom, pull 1, hold, pull up, 4s, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 left, hold, top, go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I have 8 in hand. Now remember, for the second round and third round, I have to have either 8 or 4. I do have 8, so I'm correct. Okay, so I set that down. I put these aside. Now I can see my 3 rounds. My first round, I had 5. 5 is for the 5 elements. That's terrestrial influences, earthly influences. So that's going to be a 3 for the Trinity of Luck. Second round, I had gotten 8 sticks. 8 is for fate. That's celestial influences. That's 2. Third round, I got 8 again. 8 again is fate. That's yin and yang. 2 for celestial influences. My math is 3 plus 2 plus 2, and that's 7. Now 7 we had again earlier. So 7 is an absolute yang line, or it's called an unchanging yang line. And now we have 3. We now have our first, or the lower bottom trigram, which is wind. I don't know why my camera is showing everything in reflection or reverse. I'm so sorry about that. I don't know how to fix it. But basically, of the 8 trigrams, that one is wind. And we continue to the 4th line. Pull everything up. And we start over again. Here I want to show you that I did something wrong. Usually I don't make that many mistakes when I'm counting sort of in meditative state. So I just wanted to show you how easy it is to do it wrong if you're not focusing. So right now, and I swear I'm not making excuses. I'm really not making excuses. I'm trying to teach. I'm trying to record. And so I'm not really focused on the divination at hand, which sucks as a diviner. But basically, when you do the Stalk, the Yarrow Stalk method, it's all about focus and concentration. And if there's one thing I want to demonstrate here is how easy it is to make mistakes if you're not focused. So earlier you saw I had 3 sticks. I'm not supposed to have 3. In the third round, I should have 8 sticks or 4 sticks. So I know I made a mistake. Now I have to start over again. Okay, now I have 4, so now I counted correctly. Okay, again, remember, third round, 8 or 4. I have 4, so now we know we did it correctly. So the first round, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 is for the 5 elements. So since that's 5, that's terrestrial influences. That's a 3. 3 for the Trinity of Lux. Second pile, we have 4. 4 is for the 4 seasons. So I know, again, that's terrestrial luck. So now we have 3. One more time. And the fourth, we have, again, 4. 4 is for the 4 seasons. That's terrestrial influence. Again, we have 3. So it's 3 plus 3 plus 3. That's 9. When you get the numerical value of 9, that's going to be a changing yang line. So I draw a changing yang line. And this is the way I indicate the changing yang line. This was an unchanging yang, so it doesn't have any other notations. The fourth line that I drew, I know is a changing line, so I draw a circle on the edge just to remind myself this is a changing line. And now we go again, and this is for the fifth line now. Again, I made a mistake. If you can see, I only have 4 sticks in my hand. This is round 1. Round 1 needs to have 9 or 5. I only have 4 in hand. I did something wrong. I have to redo it. Okay, now trying again, I have 5. Remember, first round, I need 9 or 5, so now I know I'm correct. Phew, I can continue. Again, I know I made a mistake because I only have 3 in hand. This is my third round. I need to have 8 or 4 in hand. I don't, and so I know I made a mistake. We need to do this again. So this is awkward. I'm supposed to be teaching you. This is supposed to be something I'm good at, and I keep making mistakes with my counting. I'm so sorry. So again, not to make excuses, or maybe I am making excuses, but one of the things I really love about the I Ching is just how accurate it is, not just in terms of the divination, but the whole process of it is interestingly accurate, even in terms of gauging where I am in terms of my mindset and my mentality. So for instance, in the I Ching text, there are, interestingly, hexagrams. I believe one of them is hexagram 4, just to give an example. A couple of them where you do have like, oh, you're a fool, or you aren't focused, or you need to pay attention, things like that, where basically the I Ching oracle is kicking you in the pants and telling you that you're not really with it. And so it's interesting how similarly, when I'm very focused and when I really have a lot invested in the divination at hand, honestly, I mean, you're gonna have to believe me, I don't make these kinds of errors. It just feels very intense. It feels very fluid. There is a very strong connection to spirit that's happening while I'm doing the divination. Right now, again, as we both know, I'm doing this more for demonstration purposes, and so my mind is more focused on making sure I say what I need to say or demonstrate in a way that can best and most clearly convey to you how to do this. So I'm not really focused on a divination per se. I didn't even come up with a question, as you recall. In demonstrating, I was just showing you how to do the counting. And so now, as you see, the process, I feel like the process reflects my mindset. I'm not in the divination because, we both know I'm not actually doing a divination, and the process itself feels very unwieldy. Now, I promise you, had this really been a true divination where my heart was invested into it, and when your heart is invested into it, it really does go a lot more fluidly. It's not so unwieldy and clunky. It is clunky only when, like I said, you're not focused. And so even the process, if you see that you're struggling and stumbling, it reveals to you so much. That in and of itself is almost divinatory, because it reveals to you your mindset and that you're not really in it, that your heart's not really in it, the way my heart right now isn't really in it. Now, if it's going a little bit more fluidly and you feel intense and you can feel that connection to something bigger than you, and it's sort of just kind of flowing out of you in a very beautiful, fluid, magical way, that's when you know the connection is strong. Okay, let's try this demonstration again. Okay, now third time's a charm, I suppose. Now we know we're correct because we have 8. Remember, in the third round, you must have 8 or 4. We have 8, so now we can be assured that we have counted correctly. Okay, first round, we have 5. 5 is the 5 elements, so we know that that is going to be a terrestrial influence. That's 3. We have 4. 4 is 4 seasons, again, terrestrial influence. We have 3. 8. 8 is for fate. Fate is a celestial influence, so we know we have 2. 2 for yin and yang. Now we do 3 plus 3 plus 2. That's 8. Okay? 8 is a unchanging yin line. Even though it's in reverse, I'm sorry about the camera, but you can see above, that's the math that I'm doing. It's going from this way, and then this is what we have so far for our hexagram. We're building up to the 6th line. Okay, so we have our 3 rounds. The first round, we had pulled 5. So 5 is the 5 elements. That's going to be 3 because it's terrestrial influences. 3 is for the 3 Trinity of Luck. Then we have 8. 8 is for fate. Fate is a celestial influence. That's yin and yang, so we put down 2. And the third round, we have 8 again. 8 is fate. Fate is a celestial influence. That's 2. So 2 is yin and yang. Now we do 3 plus 2 plus 2. That's 7. 7 is going to be an unchanging yang line. And then we have fire on top. So that is the math that we did. Again, I'm so sorry that it's backwards. And then you can see on the bottom, that is the hexagram that we have yielded. So I'm going to go into my copy of the I Ching. The cover, this is a different cover, but it's the same exact book. As you can see, I kind of created different, whatever, but you're going to have your own cover. This is that I Ching book of translations and annotations that I gave you as a PDF. If you printed it out, this is what you'll have. One of the pages up near the front is going to be the Bagua graph, and it's also in the back, but let me see if I can find it in the front. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like. You're going to want to turn to this page, and the hexagram that I got, as you might recall, was fire over wind. So I'm going to look for fire along this top row, and then I'm going to look for wind, the bottom trigram along the vertical line, and then basically using like a Cartesian grid, cross-reference and find the hexagram that fire over wind is. Okay, so I'm going to look fire over wind. You're going to do the same thing, and that would be hexagram 50. Now I'm going to have to do a secondary hexagram. This is in the supplementary materials. You can read it, but basically, as you may recall, one of the lines was changing, which we marked with a circle. Now, when it's an unchanging line, it just means exactly that, unchanging. I don't change that line. If it's a changing line, that means whatever it is, I draw the opposite. So I'm going to have to draw a second hexagram. Let me draw it first, and then I'll explain what I did. So as you recall, when we were doing all of that counting with the Yarrow stalks, we had yielded this hexagram over here called the primary hexagram. After drawing the primary hexagram, the fourth line was a changing line. So the changing line, we change it. So since this was a yang, it changes to a yin. Now everything else remains the same because they're unchanging lines. They're not marked by anything. So as you can see, this was a yin line. I move it over, yang, move over, yang, move over. So the bottom remains the same. I have the common denominator, as I like to call it. Basically, the trigram wind is in both the primary hexagram and the secondary hexagram. So I know that wind as a trigram is pretty important in the divination at hand. There's this idea of, well, wind relates to soft influence, it relates to business, finances, things like that. The correspondences for the 8 trigrams is in your PDF book, so you will look at this and find that to be significant if you have the same bottom trigram. So here I'm going to pay attention to the fact that wind is the common bottom trigram. Anyway, the top, because the fourth line changes from a yang to a yin, and then this yin line, the fifth line, remains the same. The sixth line, the yang, remains the same. So in the secondary hexagram, the fire trigram has changed into mountain because it's yin, yin, yang, going from bottom up. So now we have a secondary hexagram that's mountain over wind. And then again, I look in my book. The top row is the upper trigram, the bottom row is the lower trigram. So I look for mountain, and on the bottom I look for wind, and that would be hexagram 18, mountain over wind. So now my divination is complete. I had yielded 2 hexagrams. The first is the primary hexagram, and the second is the secondary hexagram. First is primary, second is secondary. And then I just look up, this is bibliomancy, I just look up hexagram 50 in the book, and then I look up hexagram 18 in the book after I look at 50. Hexagram 50, and you're going to do the same thing at this point. Your divinatory results will be found in your copy of the book, so look for it. Hexagram 15 is ding, it's cauldron or cooking pot. And then I look for cauldron, hexagram 18. And hexagram 18 is decay, reparation. Well, it's the poison, it's the word for poison. This is one of actually my favorite hexagrams to use in certain forms of craft. But yes, so it's hexagram 50 and hexagram 18 are my divinatory results. So that's what I would look at. Now, if you recall, my primary hexagram, the fourth line was the changing line. Since I have one changing line, I'm going to not only read the oracle of hexagram 50, but I'm also going to read line 4. And you'll know what I'm talking about when you look inside your book of changes. Inside your book of changes, you have this one section near the top that's called the oracle. Then you're going to have the first line, second line, third, and then I'm going to be reading the fourth line because my fourth line is a changing line. So you figure out which ones are the changing lines in your primary hexagram, and you're going to read those lines specifically. Okay, so to just give you an example of how I might read or interpret the divination, the first thing I'm going to read is the oracle section of hexagram 50, my primary hexagram. I had one changing line. So the second thing I'm going to read are the changing lines that correspond. So remember, I had the fourth line was changing. So in addition to reading oracle of hexagram 50, I also read the fourth line of hexagram 50. Then the third thing I'm going to read, because I now have a secondary hexagram, the third thing I'm going to read is the oracle section of hexagram 18. And in the divinatory process I learned, you don't read the fourth line of oracle of hexagram 18. The secondary hexagram, you only read the oracle section. So in terms of the bibliomancy, you're going to read the oracle section of your primary hexagram, then you're going to read the subsequent lines for any changing lines, and then you're going to read the oracle section only of your secondary hexagram. Now, if you didn't get any changing lines in your primary hexagram, you only got one hexagram. That's called a locked hexagram. You'll see all of this in your supplemental materials that come with this video. And so if you only received a locked hexagram where you only have one primary hexagram, then you only read the oracle section of that one single hexagram. That's it. Now, alternatively, some practitioners, if you receive a locked hexagram, will read the entire, so they'll read the oracle and first, second, third, all 6 lines. Now, how you do it, that's going to be a difference of approach. You know, there's just 2 different approaches to that. I only read the oracle section if there's a locked hexagram. The secondary way is to read the entire thing, the oracle and all 6 lines after. Okay, and just to showcase how this works, for me, my oracle section for hexagram 50, that was cauldron, is about, you can read it in the text, so I actually recommend that if you turn to hexagram 50, just to read along with my divination so you can get a sense of how it looks. Hexagram 50's oracle section essentially is about a developmental phase towards success, and it's about in the middle of nurturing a talent or nurturing a skill. So basically the I Ching is telling me right now I'm in the process of nurturing a talent, nurturing a skill. That's interesting because we're in the middle of teaching a skill. We're in the middle of teaching you how to divine with the I Ching and use the I Ching as a system. So, you know, hexagram 50 is about exactly that. In fact, it's about nurturing a skill, nurturing a talent, developmental phase. Fourth line is hexagram 50. The fourth line of hexagram 50, it says that I failed to execute my duties correctly, but to not worry because there was no permanent injury and the embarrassment is temporary. And you can literally almost read that word for word from the fourth line of hexagram 50 to see that we're not making this shit up. It's pretty funny. And as you can recall, I fudged up several times in demonstrating how to read with Yarrow stocks. So it's like the I Ching is now laughing at me. The oracle is basically shouting me out and pointing out that I made a whole bunch of mistakes and I failed to execute my duties correctly, word for word, in the I Ching oracle. But it, does reassure me. It says no permanent injury, which lets me know that at least most of you, I'm hoping this is true, followed along okay, understood it okay, so no permanent injury, nothing terrible really happened from it. So even though I fudged up, you know, it's okay. And it says, if you read fourth line, it's in there, temporary embarrassment. And I am temporarily embarrassed at how terribly I executed that. So again, it's interesting how the I Ching basically it's pointing me out, it's shouting me out. Now I read the secondary hexagram, that's hexagram 18. I read the oracle section, and it says stagnation, but go forth despite setbacks. Undertake the challenge. And when you're doing this, the first thing you need to do before you begin is to prepare and make sure you're very well prepared. And after you finish, to reflect. And that's how you remove stagnation, and that's how you're going to motivate the people by virtue. And the keywords that I just said, you can look at hexagram 18 and read those keywords word for word from the oracle section of hexagram 18. How I interpret that is it's saying, well, you know, we're in the middle of teaching you right now, as you can see. So it's saying that perhaps a lot of you are experiencing stagnation. There's some setbacks going on. It is a little bit difficult. It's like, oh my gosh, this is so daunting. But the advice here from the oracle, not from me, is when you're doing this, just prepare before you begin. So feel very well prepared. So when you begin, have all of the tools and everything you need all around you. Have the book out in front of you. Maybe rewatch this video again. You can fast forward to through the boring parts after you've watched it once through. Have all of the reference materials that I provided you on hand. Prepare before you start. That's how you can avoid setbacks. And then after you finish, after you receive the divination, reflect. That was the second part of the advice. After you finish, after it's done, reflect on the oracle message. That's how you remove your stagnation and find the motivation to figure out exactly what the message is, and find the motivation to fully master this skill and master this ability to divine with the I Ching. So interestingly enough, even in this example of an I Ching divination that I messed up and the divination called me out on my mess up, it's very interesting just how relevant it is, how it touched upon the energies going on right now. The energies going on right now is, you know, sort of this pedantic demonstration of how to do the divination, and it yielded a result that very much touched exactly upon what we're doing. So just to give you a sampling of the different versions of the I Ching texts that are available to you, I have 3 books that I wanted to show you. So you've already seen what my translations were, and you have a copy of the translations that come with this course, which is written by me, translated by me. It's my interpretation, not even my translation. And translations are a form of interpretation, you know, like it or not. So the first I wanted to show you is the Legge version, L-E-G-G-E. This is the James Legge version, and this is one of the more popular ones. So I would say the 2 most popular English or Western translations is the Wilhelm and the Legge, and this is the Legge. And if you look at hexagram 50, what it has in there, I mean, it essentially says the same thing. The reading here is pretty similar to what is in my book, and it just basically has the translations that the translations are at the top, and then in the footnotes you have sort of the annotations and the explanations. So how Legge does it is he does keep it very separate. The translations and probably the coded part are on top, and then annotations that sort of explain, but you know, don't go too in depth, are on the bottom. And then we have a more contemporary version. This is Brian Walker. This is the book, and this was gifted to me from a friend, and I like this one. This one's pretty good. This one's very easy to follow. This is more of just an interpretation, and then you have the hexagram 50 in here, and that just sort of shows you what that looks like. And then the third one, this is the very first book on the I Ching that I ever got, and this is the one that I learned the I Ching from. So this is the one I learned from, and this one is by Kirsten Huang. I'm partial to this only because, like I said, it's my first I Ching book. It's kind of old. I'm going to be very careful with it. And so I'm partial to my very first book that introduced me to this system. But I have to be objective. A lot of people do say it's a little bit more difficult to read, especially for Westerners. And this one side is the Chinese and the other side is the English. So it just has this is basically nothing more than the word-for-word translation of the original text. And those are 3 examples of texts that would be used in bibliomancy if you didn't have my copy, my annotations and translations. There's one more book I wanted to alert your attention to. This one's by Richard Palmer, and this is the I Ching Companion. And this one is just the interpretation. So this would not be a translation, but it can be used. It's probably a little easier for beginners, in fact. This one, it can be used to understand what the hexagrams mean. So if you look at hexagram 50, this is how it's laid out. And this one, it has the more contemporary or the modern approach to the hexagram oracle messages, where you have the judgment, the image, the time, and then the lines. It's sort of separated out rather than just having the oracle verse and the 6 lines. This one has it separated out. This is just another format for the I Ching. Okay.